Welcome to the second in my series of 5 top 10 videos on Wyzant, where my tutor name is Daniel B., PhD. The platform generously allows each tutor to upload a maximum of 5 short spotlight videos. I was thinking about what I could say in the span of a few minutes about application essays, one of my specialties, that might be the most helpful to anyone who watches. It seemed to me that top 10 mistakes, based on my 30 plus years of experience working in this area, assisting countless applicants, would be a good topic. For the most part, by the way, these mistakes also apply to personal statements and statements of purpose at the graduate and professional school level. So here's a summary, after which I'll say a few words about each of these mistakes. But before I do that, it's worth considering 3 key questions. First, how important in the admissions process are these application essays? Second, how do recent developments figure into the picture? And third, why are such essays so challenging to write? Did you know that top schools collectively reject hundreds of applicants with perfect test scores and GPAs? As an article in the New York Times put it more than a decade ago, colleges give more weight to the essay than the GPA. In other words, one writing assignment is more critical to a high school senior's chances of getting into many top colleges than his or her average grades from 4 years of high school, with recommendations from teachers and extracurricular activities trailing far behind. So, more important than GPA, more important than recommendations, more important than extracurricular activities. That's pretty important. And the same article describes the application essay as a potentially critical tiebreaker. But especially in recent years, application essays are more than just a tiebreaker. They can actually serve as a kind of equalizer, trumping other considerations, making applicants with less than perfect test scores and GPAs more competitive than they otherwise would be against superior applicants. Yes, that's how influential they can be. And they have become a critical factor in their own right. In recent years, the generally reduced use of standardized tests, increasingly high levels of competition, court rulings on affirmative action, and other trends have combined to make application essays even more important than they originally were. As an example of increasingly high levels of competition, consider how much more competitive the University of Chicago has said to become during the past 30 years, with the acceptance rate going from approximately 75% in the 1990s to 40% around the year 2005 and 5.9% in 2019. Why are these essays so challenging? Simply stated, the personal essay, as called for in this context, is not a form of writing that most high school students have been trained to do. Very few professional writers, in fact, are proficient in this particular form of essay writing. It's not something that can be learned overnight. With that in mind, let's take a look at the first mistake on our list, which is settling for a boring or cliche topic. Everyone has an interesting story to tell, usually more than one. If a student is not telling an interesting story, it's usually because not enough effort has gone into the process of brainstorming. It can often help to have an experienced person interview you to extract and identify the best essay topics. If the only ideas you have are boring or cliche, you're not yet ready to move forward to the next step. Mistake number 2 is failing to develop a strong outline/framework before starting the actual writing. An essay without an outline is like a house without an architect's plans. It probably won't work well for its intended purpose, and if it's to be a standout, will have to be torn down to be rebuilt. This process will ultimately take more time than would have been the case had there been a good design to begin with. Mistake number 3, believing that the essay has to begin with a trite anecdote, usually starting with the word as. Many years ago, this approach was considered innovative. Nowadays, it is cliché. It bores the reader, wastes precious space, and derails momentum. Mistake number 4, using stilted academic prose that sounds distinctly unnatural for an applicant, whether a high school or college student. Use of pretentious, pedantic words and phrases is intended to impress, but this inevitably backfires because it makes it impossible for the writer to come across as genuine and authentic. In general, the best writing is simple and direct. Writing that is simple and direct is most easily understood. It also tends to be the most forceful and memorable. Use no more words than necessary, and never use a complicated word if a simpler one will do just as well. Many great writers have said something along these lines. Never use a $10 word when a $5 one will do just as well. Mistake number 5, lecturing the reader, also known as philosophizing. How do you think a middle-aged admissions committee member feels about being taught the great truths of life by a teenager? Anything that may come across as lecturing, not offering insight with regard to the applicant's direct personal experiences, is best left out of the essay. Example: in life, you sometimes have to choose between the lesser of two evils. That's philosophizing. As opposed to, I decided to choose between the lesser of two evils. That's describing in terms that are simple and direct. Mistake number 6, confusing self-esteem and confidence with arrogance. Confidence is good. Arrogance is not. Many students blur the distinction and thereby fail to come across as likable. This works to their distinct disadvantage because people, admissions committee members included, understandably tend to favor those they perceive as likable. The fine line between confidence and arrogance is called humility. Mistake number 7, avoiding any admission of flaws and weaknesses. Schools are not interested in filling their seats with perfect students or with robots that get all A's and score 100% on exams. Schools are attracted to students who are creative, innovative, and highly motivated to achieve something. Yes, solid track records are important, but so is thoughtfulness and maturity, which is demonstrated in part through honesty and candor, which promotes credibility. Mistake number 8, focusing on someone else's story or failing to be sufficiently introspective. Unless specifically asked to do otherwise, the focus of the essay should be one's own story, not that of your grandmother, for example, no matter how much you admire her. And the more constructively introspective and insightful you can be about yourself and what makes you tick, the better. Mistake number 9, failing to clearly address the prompt. Just write about whatever you want and match it to whichever prompt seems like the best fit. This advice is actually given on a regular basis by counselors at a highly regarded private high school in Silicon Valley, where I'm located. But it is no better an idea than talking off topic in response to an interview question. Mistake number 10, waiting until the last minute to work on the essays and other application collateral. Many ambitious students and their parents devote literally thousands of hours over many years toward cultivating a child's achievements, and then they wait until the last minute to work on the application essays, thinking that somehow the results will still be good. This is not advisable. Simply by avoiding these 10 critical mistakes, your chances of admission will improve significantly. If you want to further boost your chances of success by working with someone who is a demonstrated master of the personal essay form, with top educational credentials and numerous 5-star reviews, who in the long run will save you time and money, you might want to check out my first video in this Top 10 series if you haven't already. And then avail yourself of a free consultation, followed by Wyzant's Good Fit Guarantee for a subsequent session. You're welcome to drop me a line to make arrangements. This is Daniel B., PhD, thanking you for listening and wishing you the very best in all your endeavors.